Peace and blessings, YouTube. The Ripper here. This evening, I want to speak on sight in its relationship to practicing or refraining from sex. And as men, we call it semen retention or seed retention. Practicing this particular this ancient practice is what leads to greater sight, greater mental powers, greater spiritual powers and capacity. The whole idea of semen retention is to use greater percentages of your brain power. What we don't realize in this society is that these people that promote sex, promote all of the debauchery, things that we follow, even with the food and every aspect of self-destruction, they understand and have studied that it all relates to destruction of the human mind and destruction of the human organism. So to go against what they show us in this world will actually increase your brain power. That is the whole idea of living in this universe as human beings, is using 100% of what God gave us, which is the mind. Once you can use that amount or that much percentages of your brain, you will, we won't even understand the powers that we are capable of tapping into. The first steps are self-mastery, mastery of the appetites of the flesh, mastery of your emotions and your thinking. If you don't master your thoughts, away from wickedness, if you don't master your emotions, away from a fiery temperament, and if you don't master the appetites of the flesh, sex, food, lust, greed, all of these appetites of the flesh that feel good to the flesh, we will never be granted the powers of the mind that we are capable of. See, that is true pleasure. To experience tapping that into your brain power is actual pleasure. No physical pleasure can compare to tapping into spiritual powers and mental powers. And that is the whole idea of wickedness. Wickedness breaks the power. Wickedness destroys the power of the mind and the spirit. It destroys your future in terms of being a God and tapping into your God-given powers, the God of self. That's what this war is really all about. Wickedness over righteousness, or righteousness over wickedness. That is what this war is all about. It is to keep us from either reaching our fullest potential or us actually reaching our fullest potential. But their goal is to keep us from reaching our fullest potential. That is the idea of this civilization that we live in. It is rooted in such low frequency and low vibrations, and it wants to trap everyone that falls into the trap. They can't trap you. You only can trap yourself by your lack of knowledge, your lack of discipline, and your own inordinate desires. That's how they trap you, with your inordinate desires. They cannot trap you as long as you keep your desires above the lower nature of self. That is how serious this is. And if you look at many of our great celebrities and people in great positions, sometimes it looks as though they're dying away. They look as though they have deviated to the point where they don't have any peace, no contentment of mind. So we've had this discussion before. Many of us will compromise for a dollar bill. Many of us will compromise for money and will compromise for material things. But all money is access. What does money do? All money can do is grant you greater access to get the things you want or need. We give it too much power and too much attention over our lives, and ultimately it will lead to your death and destruction. You pay with your life. You don't pay with money. You pay with your life. You pay with time. You pay with your mental peace or mental contentment or content. You pay with your own gifts and talents. The money is just a middleman in terms of us reaching our greatest potential or not reaching it. But we give it too much power, and that is what we need to focus on, is coming away from these wicked, inordinate desires, because until then, we will never reach our greatest potential mentally or spiritually. God intends for us to reach our greatest potential. What good is it to live in this universe and don't master it or master self? You just wake up every day, work a 9 to 5, eat and sleep every day. There's no greater thought or greater ideas of achieving greatness or mastering creation or becoming this elevated creature that God has created. No, we don't think that way. We just think in terms of this society, which is the lowest level of thinking. So it's time for us to really start understanding what we're a part of, what the intentions of this society was. What was the motive of this American society in the beginning? What was the motive of it? The whole idea of this society is to make you an animal. Is to make you're in human flesh, but the idea of this society is to make you an animal. When you're thinking lustful in a way where you don't respect your women and all you want to do is waste your seed or just have sex with as many women as possible, see, now you're an animal because you don't respect women and you damn sure don't respect yourself. Because as a man, you have no self-respect to even desire to want to behave that way. You don't even respect or love yourself enough to even come away from that thinking. See, this society brings us to the lower, it makes you bow to the lower nature. It drives you toward the lower nature. It provides access to the lower nature. That's what this society does. It doesn't give you the higher elevated access. This society does not teach you that and do not want you to tap into that, because then you're truly free. When you can tap into that knowledge and that power within yourself, it's all within yourself. We just have to reprioritize our thinking. And that is the problem. We have not come away yet from these lies and tricks that we have been taught traditionally. Many of us just follow tradition. Tradition is not necessarily a good thing. We follow tradition in a way that is destructive. Much of what we know and what we do has been passed down. And we really need to start rethinking and reevaluating everything we've learned and have been taught if we're truly going to be successful. Why not start with self? Why not start with self-mastery? Why not start with your own thinking, your own emotions, mastering that? You know, nothing on the outside of you can affect the inside of you in a negative way. Why not start with mastering your own emotions and way of thinking? Why not start with mastering your own mind to tap into greater brain power? You got to stop drinking. You got to stop smoking. You got to stop the pharmaceutical drugs. You got to start fasting. You got to start exercising. These are things we have to do if this is a goal I know that personally it's a goal for me, because I definitely want to tap 100% into my brain power. That is, it's not nothing less. Anything less doesn't even move me or excite me. I don't care about anything else, because from there, I'll have everything else. Righteousness will grant you that access, tapping greater into the brain power. Wickedness breaks the brain power or destroys the mind, the power of the mind. When you think negative and wicked and on a low vibration. But see, as you continue to think positive and on a righteous level, then you start tapping into greater mind powers. This is something that you have to be serious about. You have to have the will and the desire, because if you don't have the will or the desire, you won't be successful and you won't be genuine in your efforts. You'll just be doing it for the benefits. And when I talk to a lot of our brothers about semen retention, I hear a lot of them talk about all the benefits. It's like, that's not the idea of semen retention. God knows your intentions. The whole idea of that is it's a worthy sacrifice for God to now use you as a vessel. That's the whole idea. You're not supposed to do it for any other benefit. All of the benefits come when God's ready for it to come for you, not because you want benefits. So we have to start looking at life more seriously. We take life too much as a game and as a joke. And that's why we're unsuccessful. That's why we're dying. And that's why we're miserable and depressed, because we're constantly being chastised because we don't take life serious. We play with life. So we have to start looking at this a little different. We just need the knowledge. We need the knowledge. We need the information to really understand, to perceive life properly. We don't even have a comprehensive knowledge of life to even know how to move successfully in life. We look at everything as fiction. We don't look at life as a science. There's a science to the way we should live to be successful. We don't look at life from a scientific viewpoint. We look at life like it's just like a video game. Like we're just the characters in a game and anything goes. Like, no, you're held accountable for your actions, and you sow seeds that will affect you and those around you. So we have to look at this life very seriously and start evaluating our own actions and way of thinking. But in terms of seed retention or semen retention, that is one of the first steps to really mastering any lesser desire. You have to start there, and then you'll start to tap into greater brain power, spiritual power, physical power. All of that comes after you master the weaknesses and appetites of the flesh. Those are the first tests, mastering the appetites of the flesh. And that's all it is fasting. Fasting is prescribed. Fasting from food, fasting from sex, fasting from anything that pleases the body in a way that can destroy you. You fast from it, because there's a lot of things that may feel good or taste good, but it's not good for you. And it will lead ultimately to your detriment. So this is something we have to be serious about. And also in terms of fitness, there are certain methods in science that we have to apply to even be successful with fitness, because a lot of what we have been taught in fitness is traditional and has been passed down, and it destroys us. The way we eat, the way we train. I have an ebook, 7 Simple Secrets to Doubling Muscle Gains, where I talk about the functions of the muscle. I talk about the misconceptions, the myths, and the lies that we have been taught. And the mental aspect as well, not just the physical, but the mental aspect of how we've been deceived in destroying our bodies, even when we're working out. So they've pretty much covered all the ground to destroy us. But what I'm doing in my ebook is I'm reversing a lot of the destruction with the information and research that I have put in my ebook. So it is very informative, and a lot of research went into it. And yeah, so this is a matter of life and death. When we look at any aspect, when we look at our life, when we look at fitness, when we look at semen retention, when we look at our eating, when we look at our relationship, interpersonal relationships, when we look at whatever we're attempting, there's destruction in it and there's life in it. We got to make sure we're on the life side of it and not the destructive side of it. So thank you, YouTube. It's always an honor and a pleasure to speak with you. Let's continue to live righteous. Let's continue to overcome weaknesses, low desires. Let's continue to tap into greater and greater powers within, that's buried within us. Peace and blessings.